Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to talk about how to sell physical products to the government. So let's get into it. Before I show you how to actually sell products to the government, I want to convince you why it's a massive opportunity. The US government spends billions of dollars every year on physical products, and this ranges from paper clips, laptops, to armored vehicles. So no matter what you specialize in as a business, you will find something to sell to the government. And unlike regular customers, the government always pays in time, and they often place large repeat orders for essential supplies. And one more thing, it's a badge of honor once you have a government agency as your customer. So could you utilize that to win other big clients? Now, there are two different kind of government contracts where you can find. So you have federal government contracts, and then you have state local contracts. So the main difference when it comes to selling products, federal government buys large quantities for products like office supplies, promotional items, IT equipment, medical supplies, furniture, and even drones, and for agencies like DoD and VA. So these are like for defense contracts. So as you see, it ranges from minor things all the way to defense related products. Now for state, their needs are a bit similar and different in the same time. So they purchase everyday products like school desks, police uniform, janitorial supplies, traffic cones, things like that. But um, they also have bids for larger products. But if you're looking for more small things, as I mentioned, like school desk, police uniform, things like that, you will find more opportunities on a state and local level. Now, what's the process for getting such contracts? It's pretty straightforward. Obviously, it's difficult, but it's still simple. You have to find the contract so that you can, on a federal level, you can go on a website like SAM.gov, or for state or local, you have to go on the procurement website for that state or city. And then you submit a quote or bid, depends on what they're asking, and then hopefully you win, fulfill the order, and get paid. Now, first step is how do we go about finding these government opportunities? As I mentioned, on a federal level, we can search on a website called SAM.gov. I'll quickly show you how to do that. So when you want to filter for products, once you get to search on SAM.gov, you want to filter by the NAICS code of the item you want to sell. So for example, if you're selling for office supplies, you search for NAICS code like 424120. If you want to sell office furniture, it's a different one. If you want to sell, for example, this one 541890 is services related to advertising. So this, for example, if you want to sell promotional items like t-shirts, hoodies, things like that, branded items. And this one, for example, is for flags. So it depends on your niche. You want to find the NAICS code for that niche. I have a video on NAICS codes. You can go ahead and check it out. But for the sake of this video, we're going to go ahead and click on this one, 424120. We're going to come to SAM.gov, click on search up here, as you can see. Then you want to select domain contract opportunities. You want to scroll all the way down, select on product or service information, and then you want to come here and filter for the NAICS code for the niche you're targeting. So as you can see here, we found few for office supplies, as you can see exactly here. Now, a step further, what you want to do is you want to come here and choose set aside. If you're a small business, you want to select, for example, total small business set aside, or you might want to select 8-day set aside. If you're a woman-owned business, you might want to select women-owned small businesses, and same for veteran-owned businesses. So based on what you qualify as, you will have better chances of winning these contracts since they're looking for businesses like yours. And then also you can filter by agency. So if you know specifically, for example, that defense agency is looking for example, office supplies, then you can come here and filter by them. You can just search for the name. For example, I'm going to search for Agency of International Development, and you just click on it and you'll be able to see if they have any government contracts for the NAICS code. Another way you can do it, instead of NAICS code, you can I'm going to just remove these filters quickly. You can come here and in the simple search, you want to put in a keyword. You don't want to put the whole thing. So what I mean by that is you might want to put office, right? And then you have to filter yourself for things relating to office supplies. Another example, for example, if you're selling laptop, you just paste laptop. You don't want to get too much into details because the search here is not intelligent enough to understand long sentences. It just focuses on keywords, and you want to filter through these one by one. The titles might not make sense, but once you click inside, you have to read the description and get a better understanding. Now, on a state level, that's pretty much it for the federal level. On a state level, where you'll probably find more procurement opportunities for products, uh, and this ranges all the way from a state level, so like California, all the way to a small county. Each one would probably have its own website. So the way to go about this, either you specialize in a specific location or a state. So you could look for California's procurement website, and then you would look for opportunities there. So I have listed here around 210 government uh, procurement websites across all states. And so you would here find state level, education level, and city level for all the states. So you can come here and just get the website. I'll have it linked in the description below for free. But when it comes to products, since you're not really attached to a specific location, uh, your target audience is all of this. Like as long as you can find an opportunity for, let's say, if you sell flags, it really doesn't matter to you if it's in Houston or if it's in Alaska, because you're just going to ship it anyways. It's not like a service where you're, for example, doing landscaping, going and actually doing the landscaping yourself. For products, you're just shipping maybe from China or maybe from an inventory somewhere in the country, but it's irrelevant to you the location. So you want access to as many opportunities as possible. And for that, you need a specific software that would allow you to find these state level contracts. And obviously, if you want, you can just go the regular route of clicking through each one of these, the ones that matter to you, and finding government contracts. But what I'll show you right now is you can utilize software. There are a bunch on the market, but I'll show you one that I use, which is SAM Search. What we're trying to do here is we want to filter. So once you go to search, you could do search on a federal level, state level, and then you also have grants and SBIR. But today we're going to focus on federal, state, local, and education, obviously. So let's say we sell promotional items, right? Um, and as you can see here, we found a lot of opportunities on a state level, on a federal level, but a lot of them are past due. As I mentioned, for products, it's more competitive on a federal level, and two, you have to be quick with these things because a lot of them they just pass through. Whereas on a state level, since there are a lot of states and a lot of cities, you'll probably find a lot more opportunities for products, right? So, as you can see here, the South Carolina Park and Recreation Tourism Agency is seeking bids for promotional items. This one is the Kansas Department of Administration is seeking bids for statewide promotional items. This one is in North Carolina State University, right? This one is the Independent School District in Texas seeking a contract for apparel and promotional items. So as you can see, this one is the City University of New York. So with these things, since each university, each state, each city would probably have a need for that, you want to be on the lookout across all states and all municipalities as much as possible. On a federal level, it's just going to be more competitive because realistically, more eyeballs are going to be on a federal opportunity than the City University of New York, right? So that's why I'm saying you need to be on the lookout on, especially if you're selling products for state, local, and education contracts, right? Now we know how to find these contracts. What we wanna jump back into is finding a vendor. So now you find an opportunity. For example, let's say uh, which one is a good one? This one, the Kansas Department of Administration seeking bids for statewide promotional items, and you want to ship these promotional items. You get more details here, and you want to ship these promotional items to the Kansas Department of Administration. So, how do you find vendors? Well, you can use a lot of online B2B platforms where you can find these things in bulk. So, let's say you're looking for custom pens, branded tote bags, promotional products, T-shirts. Um, there are websites like Alibaba, obviously, but and there's a lot of suppliers online. You just have to look for them. I'm here just going to go over like the highlight, but there are websites like Alibaba, obviously, and a lot more Chinese suppliers. And you can even look for things locally. You don't have to go to China, but it's probably for a lot of these things, it's cheaper to go there. So once you find a supplier, you get their contact information. There are a few things that I want to mention that you need to ask them just to make sure that you're doing things properly. So first, you want to request a quote. You want to make sure that what you're submitting to the government is competitive, and you're not submitting something that's going to get rejected. So you want to find the best quality for the best price that you can do. So here's what you might ask. You might say, "Hello, I'm interested in ordering custom pens with our company logo. Could you provide me a quote for 500 units, including shipping to the United States?" You always want to factor in the shipping cost because you'll be paid a total sum. They really don't care about specifications. So if you do not include things like shipping in your estimate, then you're gonna miss out on some money. You also want to ask about the product specifications, so things like the material, color, size, branding options. You want to make sure that it's uh, adhere to the specification mentioned in the proposal. In the solicitation, and you want to make sure that they can satisfy the quantity and the timeline. So how long it would take them to ship it, produce it, and ship it. You want to get that information as well. Another thing that you really need to mention is requesting samples. I've seen a lot of agencies, they actually request samples before they ask for the whole shipment. So you first want to ask samples for yourself to verify that the quality is up to your standards and the agency standards. And in some cases, as I mentioned, the agency itself, they actually request samples. So you want to get information about samples. So you could say, could you send me a sample for the custom pens, including shipping costs to my address? I'd like to review the quality before making a large order. And you could also ask a follow-up question asking, will the samples be billed to you? In a lot of cases, vendors, they actually send them for free, but in sometimes they say, we'll send you the samples, you'll be charged, but then we'll deduct that from the price of the shipment. So you need to get those details figured out. Now, the second step, once we're done finding a vendor and finding a government contract, is submitting a quote or a proposal. Um, so there are two different types of usually solicitation types. So you have request for a quote when it comes to products, obviously, and then there's request for a proposal. For small quantities, it's usually or not too big contracts. It's most likely a request for a quote. So if we typically for simpler purchases, the government is just gonna want to know the price, how much it's gonna cost, and then you just submit that, and it's really based on the price. Uh, so whoever has a competitive bid would win. And in your response, you would include things like the price per unit, the total cost, how much is going to cost in total, and all the required details, delivery time, payment terms. Whereas for a request for a proposal, you're going to have to provide more details like technical specification. You have past performances as well. You have to adhere to all the details in the evaluation criteria. So these are things that you need to include in your proposal if that's what's being requested. Now, that's the first part. The second part is preparing a response. The first step that comes is understanding the solicitation and knowing it inside out. So how do you do that? You need to read the entire solicitation carefully and get the following information: the scope of work, the evaluation criteria, delivery requirements, and legal and any regulatory requirements. So you could use software like SAM Search, and I'm going to show you what I do. For example, if I want sorry about this. If I want, let's say we're looking at these and I want to submit a bid for this one, the North Carolina State University. I can come here and I can ask Sam Search AI all the details from the attachments to get the information I want. So I can come here and ask it, give me the scope of work. I'm just gonna say, give me the scope of work. And what it's doing right now is pulling all the details from the attachments and the description, and it's going to give me an answer. And as you can see here, the scope of work is for this bid is as follow. The purpose is to establish convenience contract to acquire promotional items. The intent is to provide a list of CLC licensed suppliers for the campus community. The pricing for the listed items will be evaluated to determine the best offers. And then they're saying here, if it's less than 5,000, higher than 5,000, we're getting here the resource for this information. It's this document. You can also ask things like the evaluation criteria. For example, I can come here, take this, come here and ask for the evaluation criteria. I could also ask if there are any delivery requirements, if there's any. So you want to make sure, obviously you can ask any question you want, but I want to make sure that I'm getting all the details. And this is kind of a template. I have a template, I'll link it in the description, for all the questions I ask to make sure that I'm not missing any details. So here they're detailing the evaluation criteria, and it's 4 different things, and they have a score out of 20. So you could go ahead and do the same with if there are any delivery requirements, and this would tell you if these things are not mentioned. So that's a nice thing about it. Once you go through this, you understand all the details, all the requirements, the scope of work, what you're going to be evaluated based on. You're now ready to submit a quote slash a bid. So as I've mentioned, if it's simple, it's going to probably just request an RFQ. I think I found this, it gave us details about delivery requirements. I was looking into this one, the Kansas Department of Administration, and this one you're giving a template for the request for a quote. So you have to fill out this form. The information usually contains things like what the product is, details about it, the quantity, how many units, the price per unit, total price including shipment, any other fees that are included. And then you have to provide a timeline, so how long it would take to deliver. You want to be clear, concise, include all this information we just talked about. Now, as I've mentioned, with a request for proposal, there are some details that are different. In some cases, you're going to be asked for past performances, certification, price, and you want to include that in your proposal. So if we go back to the opportunity we're reviewing, this one, what you can do, once you fill out your company profile, you can generate a proposal, and this will take out the info uh, in the solicitation and your profile, and it will generate first an outline which you can edit, and then it will generate. You'll be able to generate a proposal based on the writing plan, right? Okay, so never miss, once you do this according to the specification in the solicitation, you want to make sure if there are any registration info required. Obviously, if you're doing this through SAM, you need to be registered through SAM. If you're doing it through a state or a city or county, you have to be registered with them if that's needed. Any information that they ask, certification, if you're applying for something small business, you have to show your small business certification. If you're women-owned business, it's the same thing, 8A, veteran-owned businesses. Just don't mention these things, just to make sure that you actually, once if you submit a competitive bid, that you actually win these things. Let's go back and see. As you can see here, we have the outline, and this is the title of each section, how many pages is going to write based on it, and then the writing plan. How the writing plan, you can come here and edit each one of these. So you can decide how many pages you want. You can change the title. You can say, oh, don't write about this, write about that. You can come here and remove sections if you don't see they're needed. So I don't want to, for example, mention the product catalog. Apparently it's requested. The pricing structure, you want to add details because the AI does not know details about your pricing structure for this solicitation. So you want to give that here in the writing plan. Once that's done, you will be able to generate a proposal, and you'll get an email once that's done. So hopefully that will make it easier for you to get the first draft ready. Now, once we are done with the RFP and RFQ, I wanna leave you with a few tips that will help you win your product government contracts. So when it comes to the pricing strategy, you want to know your costs. So you want to calculate the true cost, how much things will cost you. Do not ignore details. Don't just think, oh, price per unit is this much, I can mark it up this much and sell. You have to include all costs, labor, shipping, anything involved, customs. You have to include that in your price. You have to have a competitive price, but at the same time, you don't want to be too low. So you want to have a sweet spot, a win-win price where you offer a competitive price that covers your cost, ensure your profit, but at the same time, it's not too low that you don't win or it sounds or looks suspicious. Um, if you can offer a discount, obviously go ahead and do that. Ask the vendor for a discount as well. If you're especially getting a huge quantity, you can ask them for a discount, and that discount would go into your pocket because you're gonna charge obviously the government a higher price. If you're a small business, if you're a woman-owned business, if you're a veteran-owned business, if you can get an 8A certification, get those. It will help you qualify for a lot of government contracts. And then finally, common mistakes that you need to avoid is being too late. As you've seen maybe in the search results, maybe you didn't get a chance to see these, but a lot of them, they expire super quickly. This one was released this month and is due in 9 days. This one released 12 hours ago. So these things you have to act quick on. You don't want to wait, because in some cases you're going to have other businesses competing, and usually the period for these contracts are not too long. What you could do actually is you could schedule bid alerts. So with this software, SAM.gov, you can schedule a bid alerts. So let's say you are selling promotional items. You could select the frequency. You could choose daily, weekly, or monthly. In this case, we're going to choose daily. What will happen now is we are going to get daily emails with promotional items straight to our inbox like this. So we're going to get ones on the federal level, and if it's available on state, local, and education, we're going to get those as well. So this way, you're always on the lookout for new opportunities, and you're not missing on great opportunities just because you're late. So that's the first one. The second one is, as I've mentioned before, you need to understand the solicitation, all the details in it, and you need to look for state, local, and education opportunities. As I've said, federal is just not enough when it comes to products. Include all the required documents, include all the compliance and regulation things like certificates. You have to include those if they are needed, just so you don't get disqualified. And price yourself competitively, not too low and also not high, just in the sweet spot where you are competitive. And I would also recommend to follow up with the officers that are responsible for the solicitation. So they are regular people. They're nice people. If you ask questions, they'll get back to you. If you want to follow up on something, just send them an email, and they will get back to you. And finally, do not underestimate lead time. Be realistic about the delivery time that you set. You don't want to be over optimistic and miss a deadline. You want to give yourself some time so you can hit the delivery time that you promise. I hope this was helpful. You can get a 7-day free trial for SAM Search. The link will be in the description. Try it out and see. It will definitely help you with your government contracting journey.